it is always a pleasure speaking with you, man. I consider you a friend, family, brother. And it's funny, last night when I was going to sleep, I should have wrote it down. One of your Helix videos popped up on on TikTok because I always like to go through TikTok before I go to bed. And all I kept thinking was, how does this? Well, I know how, but it's amazing how amazing your voice was back then and how it still is. How does it feel representing such a great legacy, man?
Well, I learned how to sing from Edward Johnson, who taught at a small church down in Hamilton. I actually wrecked my voice in 1976, and I learned the old Italian method of singing called bel canto, which was started by Leonardo da Vinci himself, and now I teach it. And some of my students include Tim Hicks, the girls from Kitty. So very varied, eclectic a bunch. But the doesn't matter if you're singing folk or heavy metal, the same principles of the voice apply when you're singing.
It definitely does. But you've represented Canadian rock, and that's been very important over the years, man.
It is, everywhere I go, I tell people where I'm from, and I have friends in Europe, United States, all across Canada, of course. And I take the Canadian attitude out there. We're pretty friendly guys. We get along with pretty much everybody. In interviews, I'll be asked questions like, "What do you think of this person?" And usually we say, "Well, didn't bother us." So.
But how does it feel though? Like, and Canadian rock today is great, but because the way radio is, you don't get a chance to hear enough of it. 70s and 80s, you heard a lot of it. What was it about that era that made Canadian rock so special? Like I said, you guys were a big part of that.
Well, I think back then the record companies had much more power than they do now. Record companies have been decimated over the last couple of years with indie labels and things like that. And now um, bands are out there and they got clothing lines and they're selling this and they're selling that. And the music seems to be a secondary thought. But we were signed to Capital USA, EMI, and so we had the money. So when we went out on the road in Canada, United States, Europe, we had the money to back us. In the early days, there was the bar circuit, and that was the vehicle that helped us get out there to all different corners of the country, go down to even Texas. We played across the border in Lockport, Rochester, New York. So I think the playing field was different, let's say. And if you wanted to be a rock and roll gypsy, you could. Those days don't really exist anymore. I'm actually writing a book called The Golden Age of the Canadian Bar Circuit. And during COVID year, I traveled right out to BC. I talked to Al Harlow of Prism and Bill Henderson at Chilliwack, a few other people, George Belanger of Harlequin. And, and they all had similar stories, a little bit different, but depending on their geography, but essentially the same is that they just had a never give up attitude, and they went out there and they were working for peanuts, but it didn't matter because they were living off sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Now that we're old, now that we're older, the drugs are gone, the sex is pretty much gone, so we still got the rock and roll. So.
And that's one of the reasons why we're talking, man. We're celebrating 5 decades of Helix. Did you ever think it would last this long and continue?
Well, I didn't think I lived to be the age of 40, to tell you the truth. Um, we were kind of wild in a way when we were younger. We abused ourselves to an extent. But I never really thought about how long we would last. I just enjoyed every day and kept going forward. I still do that. I get up and I have a list of things to do during the day, even though we're getting older and maybe the gigs are farther between each other and less airplane stuff. It's still a big job to keep the profile of the band up, working on social media. I'm advancing gigs myself. We used to have, a room full of secretaries and road crew to do all this stuff, and now it's just me. But I kind of enjoy it, booking the flights, booking the hotel rooms, organizing things. I think I'm good at that. And then, keeping the writing going. We have several albums I'm working on right now, a couple books I'm writing. And then there's the interviews, like with you. We've done a lot of interviews over the last couple of weeks due to Lyle Charus, who was hired by Crown X Recordings. So I've been doing interviews with Sirius Radio, and the other day I did Rock Candy magazine over in England with which is Mark Putterford, who used to do articles on us in Kerrang magazine, along with Paul Suter over in England. So every day is pretty busy, and then you have to have your own private life squeezed in there somewhere. And I have couple properties here I work on, so I have a full day.
One of the things I was talking to somebody about on the weekend, and we were comparing music today and music yesterday, and your music is part of this too. Um, Today we don't get a lot of, and again, it's no disrespect to the folks today, things are different. But back then, lyrically, you guys didn't just write to rhyme, you wrote to tell stories. You told um these really interesting stories through your music. It was almost like sometimes the melody was secondhand and it just helped perpetuate what you wanted to tell. I mean, and it's always these amazing stories, whether it be, about the neighborhood, it could be fantasy, it could be whatever, but you guys told stories through your music. How mentally, how did you guys even think of doing those kind of things? Because, like I said, you don't hear much of that today.
Well, we didn't make a conscious effort to do that. I think that we just wrote from experience, and that's the way it came out. For instance, the song that comes to mind is Heavy Metal Cowboys, which was a story about how we were playing in Yuma, Arizona, and we had to travel across to San Diego, fly up to Vancouver to do a interview with Terry David Mulligan and Much Music, open up an A&B record store and a whole whack other things. And I remember on the way from Yuma to San Diego, we had Bill Sipe, our big truck driver, Rick, who was like this big, and Roman Reingruber, who was like over 6 feet tall. We were all squeezed into the cab. And I think Roman was about to explode. He was so stressed out from being in the closed quarters like that, claustrophobic. We got to San Diego and we could see the airport way over there on the other side of a fence. And we were late for our flight. And we pulled up to the front of an army base, I think. And we opened the door of the truck and there was a guard standing there with his gun like this. And when we opened up the door to the truck, a beer ball fell out and smashed right at his feet. We made the flight. I flew up to Vancouver. I did all these interviews. I think I met with some little honey there, and then the next morning flew back to San Francisco, met up with the band. So that's what that song's about. Billy Oxygen, one of the earliest songs we ever wrote. Brent drew from experiences of going down to the jam bar, and there was a guy named Billy Oxygen. uh, who played an ES-335, and that's what that song's about. So everybody thought that song was we got a 14-day supply, and it was actually we got 14 days to fly. Maybe the
Oh
same
my,
thing.
yeah, probably the same thing. Your music has always been timeless. I mean, best example is how it was featured in Trailer Park Boys. Do you get a kick out of hearing your music used in films, television, commercials?
Well, it makes us a lot of money, that's for sure. And the associate with the Trailer Park Boys was a wonderful thing because it resurrected our career there for a couple of years, and we ended up doing a tour out in Western Canada, courtesy of House of Blues, and that was a lot of fun times. Those guys used to bring us up at the end of the night, and the way the routine used to go was Ricky, who's Rob Wells, would come out and say, "Geez, guys, it was a great night, but I didn't hear my favorite band play my favorite song," and then that's when we would walk out on stage and do Rock You with the guys. We're playing at the Moncton Casino coming up on June the 14th, and I think they're going to be in town that night. So you never know, you might see Ricky up on stage with me for Rock You. So stay tuned.
You just mentioned the
We've done
iconic.
songs on. Oh, geez. That 80s show, which was a prototype. We had the
Yeah.
first Born with Terry Garr. Um, uh, I think the first Iron Eagle movie, and lots of other shows.
Well, you mentioned Rock You, iconic. What do you think is about that song that, still resonates today and will resonate tomorrow?
Well, I think it's the obviously the chant at the football chant at the front of the song. For years, I never knew this, but one day a fan came up several years after the song was out and went, "I like that song because it's the way you go." Right? And I went, "What? No, no, we're saying rock you." He said, "Well, I thought you were saying the F word." And I went, "Really?" And then some other people went, "Oh yeah, that's how I thought too." So
So
I didn't
let's
even
make it
really know
clear.
the meaning there. So.
So let's make it clear. When you wrote it, you never had the idea of using the F word. It was always rock you.
When we first performed the song, I just thought it was a great song, and we put it on stage actually at the El Rosa Villa in Columbus, Ohio, which was the club where Dimebag Darrell was shot at. We also put Animal House on that same night, and we played Rock You every night since. So I remember doing the song, getting the demo and taking it and saying, "Okay, guys, let's put it on stage," and it had an immediate crowd reaction. And when we recorded the song, it had immediate reaction when I played it for people. The song almost got usurped by a commercial by Labatt's Blue, where they bought the masters off Capitol to use in a commercial. And they went, "Give me a BLUE. What you got? Labatt's Blue. What you gonna do? Drink it or something?" And Labatt's went and released a commercial a weekend before the song was actually due to be released. The
Oh,
Capitol lost it,
of
and they
course.
phoned up Labatt's and said, "Either you pull that commercial, we're suing you big time." So Labatt's pulled the commercial, and then we had to do another commercial for them. So we did Heavy Metal Love, and it was Heavy Metal Blue. Oh yeah, heavy metal. So
Oh my goodness. Well,
I know
look,
you
we're
can't help
talking.
but laugh at some of this stuff.
Oh gosh, yeah. 50 years. How are we celebrating this 50th anniversary?
Well, for one thing, I'm doing two of my own shows. One's in Kitchener Cowboys, which is a 1,000-seat nightclub here in London, Ontario. And the second is in Kitchener, Ontario, at a club called Elements, same amount of people capacity. We have Nuff's Enough coming up to back us up for Chicago. Nuff's Enough with the hit during the 80s and on MTV with Fly High Michelle. Perhaps you've heard that song. We're on
Yep.
David Letterman. And Chip is a friend of mine, so I talked him into it. And we have a great local band called How's That? That's been selling lots of tickets for us, by the way, and been really helpful in helping to promote the show. They're on both shows. And also, I can't remember the name of the other band, but they're coming up. They're actually traveling with Nuff's Enough. Permacrush, that's it. And I think they have the old drummer for Buck Cherry in the band.
Fantastic. Sounds great, man. You mentioned about new music. What about that?
Well, we have a new song. I want to grab a piece of paper here. Geez, can I just give me one sec?
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Go ahead. And it's funny because see, now's the time when the cat should be walking by because if nobody knows about Brian Vollmer and his
My
lovely wife, they've always
apologies.
got great animals. I was just telling people about the fact that you guys always have cats or whatever running around.
We have cats running around. We got a dog. But the reason I had to run out of the room is because I always forget the people who played in this song. We got a
Yep,
brand new song called Stand Up. Originally, it was started by Johnny Hyatt, guitar player that plays for Stet Howland down in Fort Myers, where I live in the winter. And Stet used to play drums for Metal Church, Wasp, Lita Ford, and Johnny plays guitar in his weekend band. So I originally wrote a song with Johnny, and then my friend Gord Pryor came down. We changed the song, came back to Canada. Make a long story short, they brought in Michael T. Ross to play keyboards. He's from Lita Ford and Alda Nova, and Jerome Lee, who's a great Motown player, I guess, from Vegas. And the song came together in Charterhouse Studios in London, Ontario, with Aaron Murray, who was voted Producer of the Year last year in London. He's a protege of Danny Broadbeck, who used to work with Dolores O'Riordan. And Danny's a protege of Jack Richardson, and I don't even need to tell you who Jack Richardson worked with. So good lineage and all real quality people that worked on the song. Got 10,000 listens first week out. We also re-recorded Rock You, as you know, with the Toot guys, which is Phil X of Bon Jovi, Brent Fitz of Alice Cooper and Kiss, and Todd Kearns, who plays for Slash. He came from Age of Electric, which I think is a Saskatoon band. I can't remember. I don't know. So great players. And Daryl, of course, came in with me. And we banged off the song in an afternoon. We did the video in an afternoon. They brought up a videographer from Brazil, of all places, and he filmed it all day long with a super duper camera. And so, like I said, even though we're 50 years old, there's all this stuff going on all the time. And somebody said, "Well, aren't you excited?" And I go, "Well, in the music business, one way to survive is to have controlled passion."
Yeah.
Because not every day is a big hit, not every day is a big tour or the big gig. So in between, there's a lot of really boring days of talking to some asshole on the phone that you don't want to talk to. So you have to keep it even keel, as they say. Hello, this is my cat again. This is
There you
Danny.
go.
What are you doing here?
And we want to remind people before we go, man, you guys were one of the first rock bands to ever record a rock Christmas album.
That's right. It was called a Heavy Metal Christmas, and we did it in the summertime because, as you know, you got to get a couple months ahead of it. I'll tell you a funny story about that album, and that is this, that Ed Johnson, who I mentioned before, taught me how to sing. Ed Johnson was the tenor soloist for Norman Vincent Peale when he was in New York City singing for the New York Metropolitan Opera. And
Yeah.
Norman Vincent Peale wrote The Power of Positive Thinking. And through Ed listening to Norman Vincent Peale every Sunday at his church, he became a positive thinker. And through Ed Johnson, I became a positive thinker. And when I first got married to Linda, we didn't have very much money, and I was always worried about money and paying my bills. And Ed would say, "Don't worry about money. When you need money, money will fall out of the sky." And he'd say that over and over and over until finally I became a positive thinker and it changed my life. When we did the Christmas album, I got right to the end and I was 2,000 bucks short. I was tapped right out, emptied my bank accounts, and I went home and I was picked up the mail at the front door and I sat down at the kitchen table with Linda and I said, I'm kind of ticked off. I said, here I am. I'm in my 40s and I'm still borrowing money off my dad. I said, I'm short money. I'm going to have to go ask my dad for some money. And I opened up the first letter and it was from Ed's widow, Barb. Ed had passed away by this time. And the letter read, I just want to say thank you for everything you did for Ed, to clean up his apartment and things like that. He really thought a lot about you. And that's why he would want you to have this check for $2,000.
Wow.
When you need money, money will fall out of the sky. Think positive.
There
And I
we go,
needed
man.
2,000 bucks. And guess what? I had a check for 2,000 bucks arrive just like Ed said it would. From Ed.
Wow. From Ed. As we wrap this up, that's an amazing story. How do you want Helix to be remembered over the years in the future?
I think that I want us to be remembered as a bunch of hardworking guys that just went out there and had fun and a real connection to the people we played for. I think that's so important to have a grassroots following. We were never a band to hide in the dressing room between sets, even when we played bars. We went out, we made friends, we went to barbecues, we went to parties, and sometimes we even slept with the locals.
Don't say that because there's probably some guy who's sitting or a girl sitting there going, "Why does he look so familiar? Why does he look like me?" And mom keeps saying that she met him. What's going on here? Be careful, my friend. Oh man, look, I got to tell you, it's always been a blast talking to you.
Okay, it's
Your
great
French,
talking to you, Rudy. You
you're,
know, we
you're
love each other like brothers. We've known each other a long time. And
yeah,
we've had a
and
lot of fun times together, especially on that yacht in Toronto Harbor.
oh my gosh, that was so much fun. And not that it matters to everybody else. I'm going to be trying to get up there to London to visit you guys since you're
You
going to
should come
be
up
here
to
for the
London. Yep.
summer. So looking forward to that. Congratulations, 50 years.
Thanks
Looking
for having
forward
me.
to the next 50 years because I know what's going to happen. Always love and say hello to the wife for me. Thanks again, my friend.
You're welcome. You have a great day.